Thank you folks for clicking on the video. If you'd like to be informed when new videos go live, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that bell notification icon. Please feel free to like, comment, and share the video with family and friends, as it really does help the channel grow in the current YouTube algorithm structure. Hello everybody and welcome back to Swamp Dog Games. Today we will be reviewing Zweihander, the fantasy horror RPG starter kit. This I was able to pick up off of Amazon for about $25. I've heard people talk about Zweihander. It was a successful Kickstarter a couple years ago where they released the full 650 plus page version ages ago, and now that the D&D controversy had occurred, everybody was bringing it up as an alternative for a sort of grimdark fantasy alternative to Dungeons and Dragons. This video is actually being reshot from the original one I had filmed, since it sounds like WotC has gone back on them trying to deauthorize it and have released their SRD under Creative Commons Attribution by 4.0. But I still want to review some alternatives to Dungeons and Dragons, because this is a great opportunity for people to learn about all the other RPGs out there besides the D20 classic Dungeons and Dragons. But I wanted to make a new video that takes out some of the cheap digs I made at Wizards now that they have backtracked. So first we'll be opening up the box. I want to highlight a little bit something about the foil text here on the Zweihander box. I really like this effect. I really wish it showed up better on camera. This lighting really does not give it justice, this holographic effect that the Zweihander logo is. I wish that more companies would do this sort of hollow effect on their boxes, but that's just a personal preference thing. Other thing is, from McNeil Publishing, who does the starter version, very thick cardboard. All right, first thing we see, it comes with all the dice you need to play. Thank you, RPGs that do this. It's mostly a percentile dice system, but there are some times where you do need your D6s. Of course, they all have the special. This is sort of going grimdark in a satanic setting-ish, so when they have the pentagon logo on the 6, it does kind of make sense. I like also the fact that if you're going to do dice with your game, that you also do theme dice that work with it as well. Let me pop all of this out. Whee! What will not be shown here, there's also a insert that you can get a free PDF copy of the rulebook, as well as the rules compendium, as well as templates, images, and all kinds of stuff that load directly into the Roll20 virtual tabletop system. I did have a small issue redeeming it, but I think it had, I don't know what happened on their end, if there's something that's changed in the interim about how they issue the free rules with this, or it just my bad luck, because I had an account previously with them. I tried to redeem it. I bought this post Wizards of the Coast OGL fiasco, yet it was trying to tell me and them that I had redeemed this back in November of 2020, as well as some rules weren't porting in right. So whatever it was, I think the stars were not aligning with me. But I want to do a really good shout out to Roll20. Whatever the hell happened, their customer service was quick to respond, quick to work on it. Even they were confused what the heck had happened, but resolved it. And so all peachy. And I want to thank Roll20 for doing everything that they did. It was an amazing experience. I'm sorry, I wish I didn't have to have contacted their customer service, but it was resolved quickly, amicably. It was great. So I want to give them a good shout out for that. Now, it does come with, thankfully, a GM screen. I wish more games would do this. Dungeons and Dragons, take note that if you're going to be releasing the rule kit, I know I prefer like harder cardboard, such as the ones that occur when you do like the Pathfinder one where it's really hard laminate cardboard. But you can have this as the paid extra. But come on, guys. This isn't going to cost that much extra. Put in a cheap cardstock gem screen so that the game master has the cheat sheet to go off of to make his life easier running the damn game. It also comes with a couple maps. These are all in the isometric orientation that allow players to have a really nice view of the surrounding environment. I personally prefer the top-down. One reason why is for porting it in to virtual tabletop, or when you're doing it online, the top-down perspective is easier to work with in a lot of systems. But if you're going to be wanting to get a spatial awareness relationship in a 3D plane, as well as a lot more detail of like the local setup, such as like in this one where you see just how packed this inn is, the isometric view does do a pretty good job at providing that sort of spatial orientation. They give you plenty of initial maps for this game, and including the Game Master's booklet, several of the scenarios do make use of this. If you're doing the isometric, though, I'm a little bit torn about the printing out of it, though it is nice that they print it out so that you can hand this to the players as a handout. Unless you're going to be doing, again, that top-down perspective, you're not going to be able to really effectively use this for miniature coordination, battle placement, so I'm not sure if this was necessarily of use beyond just the ease of hands-outs to the players. You also have the local town map. I can't open this up because the thing is huge, but it does come with a labeled and unlabeled side so that your characters can get, again, the idea of what the town is actually like. On that note, too, you also get a big poster. Again, this is just a gigantic poster version of the cover of the box art, which I do have to say, this box art cover, really like. Though she does look more like they've stolen her from Lamentations of the Flame Princess, the box art does a really good job at portraying the sort of grimdark setting nature that they're trying to go for in this game. You also have clue cards that you can hand out to the players. Now, this is worthwhile to me, where you can hand out something that if you're going to be doing investigative RPG play, where they can see the item and that the storytelling of the item is easier to portray, such as you see the bloody finger, and then only if they look closely do they see that it is representative of the owl, which unlocks the hidden owl statue, which takes you into... what's that mansion from the Resident Evil series? The one with the really bizarre security system by the multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical company. Who would have thought a pharmaceutical company could do something evil? Modern injuries, or moderate injuries, so you can have an idea of your injury. This sort of reminds me more of the RPGification of the Doom Guy portrait from the Doom series. These little handouts, and then some fortune tokens, which go into sort of their fate mechanic system. You do have the character sheets for a couple pre-gens. I would personally prefer if they had just printed this off so that you could laminate this easier, so you didn't have to cut it. For this type of pre-gen, you really want to cut it in half, laminate it, and then just use the dry erase markers to mark everything off. My only serious complaint, though, about their character sheet is because of the starter box, these cheap, flimsy trackers, which go on the side here to mark your condition tracker. This is both your damage and your peril condition track, that these markers are going to rest on the side here, and then as you get more wounded, they go down. This flimsy thing, these are going to get lost, bent, damaged, destroyed, and are going to go bye-bye so quickly. I wish you had either done plastic or preferably some other damage tracker system that doesn't involve this thing. Since so much of this you have to write into it anyway, it kind of defeats the purpose of making these reusable. So either have your players laminate it as a suggestion, or just, yeah, do something stronger than these flimsy things. That's just a design choice that I'm not a particular fan of, but you do have character sheets for the smuggler, the sellsword, or the mercenary, the reeve, the pugilist, the jester, the etherealist, which is sort of your magician class, your barber surgeon, which is your medic, your bounty hunter, your bravo, your charlatan, your chosen, your investigator, and the gambler. Alrighty, and that's everything that comes in the box off the bat. A lot of material to get you guys started, but you are here after all for the rules. So getting up, oops, no, I had the right one. Player's Guide, nice thick book. Now, this one from Andrew McNeil Publishing, which I believe was also their publisher for the big 650-page book. This is where this system gets a little complicated. This version is kind of like Zweihander 1.25 or 1.5. It's not a second edition. It's a cleanup of the bigger rules. However, because this is the more modern playing of it, so this is my understanding. I do not have the full rule set. I don't have the ability to do comparison, but my research says this is like the 1.25, the 1.5 version of the Zweihander rules. So just be aware that some things in this system aren't going to be the same as you get in the larger Kickstarter version. But most of this should be the same, hopefully. We have here those welcome to Zweihander. Zweihander, of course, is German for two-handed sword. I'm not necessarily sure if that, when looking into that, it was necessarily like the size of a Scottish claymore, or it was just a generic term for two-handed sword, like a German longsword that assumes you use two hands. I'm not essentially sure, but this is a sort of modern envisioning of the Games Workshop Warhammer RPG rule set. I have not played Warhammer, the original RPG. I believe, however, the original is a D6 system, and this, though it makes itself an homage to that original system, is a D100 percentile system. Roll under for success. The rulebook is very well made. It's nice that they also include a formatting guide in this book, so it tells you when you're reading it. Capitalized words in bold are terms relevant to gameplay or character references. Those in italics are callouts that don't need to be committed to memory. Black boxes indicate tips for the game master. Sepia boxes are for everyone to read, and gray boxes are examples of gameplay. Books like Wizards, Dungeons, and Dragons, they are formatted and standardized that you can intuitively learn what different colors mean, what different box formats mean. It's not that hard, but by having this specifically called out in the beginning, I believe it's better for the reader because it allows for faster adaptation to the game, the unique specifics of this game, and these format fields make reading through here easier. Oh, gray box. Well, I understand the rules. I don't need to mess with the gray box. Okay, so you skip that and the like. It was a very nice system. The again, it is a roll the percentile roll under the. It has several attributes that you roll against. The big issue with this is its attempt at an advantage/disadvantage system in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. If you have advantage, you roll 2 d20s, take the higher result. Roll 2. If you have disadvantage, roll 2 d20s, take the lesser of the result. This has this flip to succeed mechanic / flip to fail mechanic that kind of looks like it's trying to implement that kind of advantage disadvantage system. Yeah, I feel it's going to present some like really swingy options with this game. It's granted you have the D20, you have a linear difficulty curve. You roll the percent. You have a 1 in 20 chance of rolling any number. It just feels innately to me. I'll have to compare the math on this. That the D20 roll system is going to provide less of a horrific swingy nature to your roll than this does. It's a good idea, but I think it's executed poorly and can really present problems, in my opinion, because of the weird nature of this flip to succeed mechanic, where it's just going to feel much more swingy to me. Now in this, though, if you do roll doubles and you pass the test, that is considered a critical. You roll a success. If you roll 99, however, critical failure. It does have base difficulties for various actions. You do have your fortune point system, which can be awarded that create scene mechanics that go in here. You can occasionally roll other die that can help add percentile bonus to your current die roll. You have a ton of classes in this book and a ton of skills and options. Honestly, if this book was just your entire class system, your entire skill system, this book I think would be all you need and would be perfectly fine. The fact that the full 650 plus page version of this has 100 classes, this is already starting to be a little bit overwhelming in the starter kit. I am not sure at all I could recommend the full version with just how complicated some things in the starter box get. It does have your pricing guides, though, for the local economy. It does have your basic combat system with a huge amount of starting equipment. This is sort of a 17th century, like Renaissance-ish style setting where there are firearms that are available. It is going, however, for a much more grim dark for those who love old style Warhammer, where you have your chaos cults running around trying to invoke the demons and you're trying to stop them. Some of how it handles its advanced actions is a little clunky. I'm not necessarily sure I'm a fan of its advanced action system in this game. However, one thing that I do want to call out that seems to have a lot of complaints online that I don't understand is the art that this book uses. Now, is this some of the best art on planet Earth? No. But their objective was to invoke that old Warhammer style grimdark fantasy artwork setting. Now again, never played Warhammer Fantasy. However, I am a big player of the Warhammer 40k war game. I do have a lot of old books that I've collected over the years. I'm not that old. I wasn't there at the beginning. But I have retroactively collected a lot of material so that I can play it. Looking at the art, when you compare it to the old 40K art, this is very reminiscent of that. It is consistent in this book, however. That's the one thing that makes it stand out from Games Workshop back in the day. They would buy art from whoever the cheapest artist was around or whoever was available to do this type of pencil art. And so Games Workshop books of this era, the quality varied wildly. This feels like it's all from the same person, but it invokes that art style that was popular through that era. Now, these character sections that with it's just the character and the background is removed. This does not remind me, or it's not reminiscent of Games Workshop art. But when you look at these, let me find one. These profile pics here, this is definitely evocative of that old that old Games Workshop Warhammer fantasy art style that they used throughout that period. So I believe that the objective of their artist was well met. I believe he needs to be given a shout out for what a good job, or whoever did this needs to be given a shout out for the good work they did. And they should be really praised on the artwork that was provided for this book. The everything that you need, again, for the player, which is a pretty in-depth system, I might add, is here. When you go into the Game Master's Guide, it goes a little bit more to special conditions that can occur, how your different perils can occur. It does provide, however, a lot of NPC information and setting information for the adventures that you will go on in this game. So it is sort of a half Game Master, half adventure guidebook. It also includes your bestiary for the game. I mean, look at this. This, all you need is that instead of a monocle, an ocular implant, and this would be a modern 40K Inquisitor right here. This is very evocative of that art style. It looks like, from my opinion of the bestiary, that they are going for a more unique monster trend in here. So rather than in a lot of D20 fantasy or fantasy RPGs in general with mass combat, you have the cannon fodder monsters and then the big boss monster that you engage against. My interpretation of this is that they're trying to go for more higher level, unique monsters that you encounter, and you're not going to have as many minions that you'll be going after in the field. If my interpretation is correct, again, I have not had a chance to play this, then I believe that style will allow for more grimdark fantasy play. But that grimdark fantasy setting that they're going for gets hampered at a couple times in this game. Strangely, the setting that it is going for, it's supposed to be that horror. You never know when your players will be killed, but it doesn't want to fully commit to that style. It looks like it's trying to get there. Another problem I have with this game is that it's got randomness tables out the wazoo for character creation. This makes sense in a game where you are constantly having your character die. If you're doing a Call of Cthulhu campaign, I'm used to it being everybody knows their character's going to die horribly. It's just a matter of when. So eventually you run out of ideas creating characters, and so you need all the random tables to create your own. This looks like it's trying to go for that. But looking at the combat system of this game, looking at how it handles some mechanics in it, it looks like they're not fully committing to that grim, dark combat experience, where even at some points in it, it sounds like they actually call out that they don't want your character to like die horribly. That, what is it? Somewhere in here it was talking about that everyone should come away with a good gaming experience and should come away from the table happy. If you're going for a grim, dark setting, that's not the core reason for people playing to come away happy. They go grim dark because they want that horror. They want that their character to die as horribly as possible, fighting the monsters. They want that body horror. They want that tension, that wondering, is this going to be the day, the moment where my character bites the dust? So, yeah, I believe it was here. The RPG safety tools section, where about we want to tell meaningful and nuanced fantasy horror stories, but that we can't get too disturbing or visceral, and the player should be able to cop out at a moment's notice. It doesn't work like that. This game just will not commit to its major premise, and I just can't recommend it. The mechanics are a little clunky. Now, again, this is the cleanup version, but if this is the cleanup version of the game, I'd hate to see the full 650-page version of it. The amount of randomness tables, again, because they don't commit to the core premise of horror fantasy, seems more like filler than really useful systems. Plus, two, it assumes when you're creating these characters that they're going to be all randomly generated. I know the game master and players, if they agree, you don't have to do that. You can just have the players choose whatever unique. This system doesn't call it race, it calls it something else. It calls ancestry. Ancestry traits in here that you can pull from. It just feels like it forces the players, if you're going to do it by the rules like the author intended, that's going to be just totally random and bonkers, but no real reason for it, because the likelihood of your players dying horrific deaths isn't as high as it should be, despite what the core theme concept would make you think about the setting. It's a good initial product. For the $25, it's worth it if you want to try a homage to the Warhammer Fantasy RPG. I think, though, that there's some better RPGs out there. This is for that particular homage group. And though I don't have experience with what they're making the homage to, it is a good RPG, or at least the impression I get is that it would be good for that homage thing. Partially because of I just cannot recommend this RPG, but partially because of the theme that they're going with, I will rate this RPG a 13. It's on the upper end of average. There's nothing about this that's particularly strikes out at me as, oh, you must get this RPG. But it could be fun if you're in for that sort of grimdark, but a grimdark setting that doesn't fully commit, and want something that sort of aims at a homage to Warhammer. Now, there are some other games that he does have in this. One is... not Blackbird. There is Mein Gauche. There is a couple other ones that use this core system, but I think have better reviews, but they didn't have starter kits, so I haven't reviewed them yet, but I'll go try reviewing them some other convenient point with the card in the corner being updated if I do. The system, if done with some tweaks, I believe could be much higher than the 13. It's just this presentation I can't recommend higher than that 13. Now, one of the other advantages of this system, however, is the fan community around it. Those who do play it seem to be big, hardcore fans of it. They do love engaging in it. There is the advantage. This box set is not published under any license. This is an all rights reserved from McNeil Publishing. However, I did talk to Daniel D. Fox, who is the author of this. The Zweihander revised core rulebook and Mein Gauche are released under Creative Commons attribution, non-commercial, share-alike license. What that means is you can make your own material based off of the Zweihander game engine and release it as long as you don't charge money for it. And anybody who uses the sub-license of that material also gains the same rights. So they can make material based off of your material, they just can't sell it. So that is the Creative Commons by non-commercial share-alike license. It is a good license. It's not the best out there, but it's still very community-friendly because it allows the community to create stuff without worrying about being sued. They also have another program called the Grim and Perilous Studios. That is run through Drive-Thru RPG. That has a commercial license that you can engage in. So that system you can use, according to their page, pretty much anything from the core rule books without issue. That does, according to their page, and let me pull that up here. So as you can see here, the storefront they have for their Grim and Perilous library for Zweihander, this is a special revenue deal, so if you wanted to publish on your own, you couldn't do it commercially. You'd have to give it out for free, and the sub-license would have to be the same license that you were operating under. You can also put your books into their Grim and Perilous system, where you can use the official Zweihander RPG, Dark Astral, Flames of Freedom, rules, art, ancestries, culture, countries, religions, monsters, professions, weapons, writing, campaign seeds, and more. This is effectively almost all of the material from those 3 RPGs, with more to be added, that you can use pretty much anything you want and publish them under this license. They do give you a 60-40 split in your favor, so you get to retain 60% of the sale. Now, I'm sure some people, their initial reaction is, wait a minute, everybody was complaining WotC was taking 20% royalty. This sounds even worse with 40%. Actually, I'm not a publisher on this platform, Drive-Thru RPG, but what happens here is Drive-Thru RPG, for an independent creator such as myself, again, I don't have a creator's account, but I've read up their material, they charge a 35% royalty for every sale on their platform. That's their hosting fee, essentially. So when you look at it, assuming that the deal remains, that 40% that they're, quote, retaining, 35% is going to Drive-Thru RPG. These guys are getting 5%. Now, again, not a publisher, but I have a suspicion that these groups, because Free League also has a similar agreement with Drive-Thru, and here's Zweihander also has this type of storefront ability on Drive-Thru RPG. I suspect that these publishing groups get slightly more favorable royalty splits with Drive-Thru. That's a belief of mine. I don't have any hard facts to back it up, but it's probably then Drive-Thru will only take a 30% royalty cut, and then Zweihander gets a 10% cut of sales, is what I would guess, because they want to make sure that these storefronts have preferential treatment to help push people into these storefront deals with these publishers, so they need to give these publishers a slightly better than their normal split. But that's still only about 10% royalty actually going to Zweihander, while the 30%, if I'm correct, is going to Drive-Thru. So though yeah, the 40% of your royalties are being taken away, it is because it's only 10%, only about half of what Wizards was trying to charge. And Wizards was also trying to charge that on top of everyone else's royalties. So some royalties you might even have been in the negative at paying like 110% of sales because of Wizards' mess. This system isn't actually that bad once you look into the terms of the deal. Um, it is a nice option for third-party sellers because you are limited if on your own private publishing to do it by the CC attribution non-commercial share-alike license means that if you want to do this on your own, you have to give it away for free, and anybody who makes materials off of your material also has to give it away for free. This allows them and you to actually create third-party content that you can make some money off of if you want to both support the community and make a little money helping provide content for an RPG that you love. My own personal opinion of this RPG, however, as I said, it's on the upper end of average. I'm not sure necessarily I would recommend this. Definitely not at all would I recommend this as a first-timer's RPG. This is not the same thing as the OSR's attempt of recreating like Basic Expert with Moldvay Cook, cleaning that up a little bit for modern audiences, which was already at its core a well-defined new player book. This is for experienced RPG players only. I would never recommend this as a first-timers. It's just that the core mechanics are just so verbose, and this is being the starter. If this was the whole RPG right here, I would say it's a little verbose, a little complicated, but okay, deal with it. It gets longer than this by a significant amount. The full book, 670 pages. I'm not sure I could recommend this to an RPG player, as well as some of the weird swinginess and just complete adherence to just randomness that seems to be a hallmark of this design philosophy in here. I'm not sure. There's going to be some that are going to love this book. Zweihander does have its fans. I don't begrudge you that. If you like this extreme amount of randomness that's out of your control and you're adopting your play style to what the book says you should be adopting, go right ahead. If you are doing this because it's a good representation of old Warhammer fantasy, good on you. You guys deserve your own OSR product. By all means, play it. This, however, is not something that I would recommend for that many people. It's for a very specific community that wants a very specific product, that they want grimdark, but not too grimdark. They want this sort of 80s style fantasy RPG, but keeps maybe a little bit too much of that 80s style game mechanic. It's just not going to, I think, have wide scale appeal, this system. There's just too much randomness, it's a little bit too swingy in its combat. It doesn't want to fully commit to its premise. I just don't think that this is an RPG for me that I'm going to be doing much more investigating on. If you like that sort of, let's be edgy, but not actually edgy style RPG, this might be for you. But if you think I'm wrong, this is now your chance. Put in the comment section below. Am I wrong about the swingy nature of this RPG in its role system? Am I wrong that it's trying to aim at more unique monsters rather than mass combat? Do you think that my score is a little bit too low? Or maybe you think it's too high for the system? Why don't you provide it in the comments below? I'll see you next time. Remember, business buchayat. And for all of 20 people that get that, they'll be laughing hysterically right now. Everyone else, peace. See you next time.